Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to this week's edition of Tech Tuesday. My name is Mike Britton, a Senior Sales Engineer at Northamber. Today I'm going to take you through an overview of the Panda Security portfolio. The object of today's session is to introduce you to the capabilities of the vendor. Panda's a really, really great vendor. Undervalued in many respects. They have a broad set of solutions that tick a broad set of IT challenges. And in today's complex world, it's a really, really useful tool at our disposal. Just before we get into today's session, just to cover off a few of the ways in which the platform we're using works today. I have muted you guys, but you still have the ability to unmute yourself if needs be. I would ask, if you're going to do that, please click the little hand icon at the bottom. That's the equivalent of raising your hand. And then I will unmute you, and then we can converse without there being too much background noise. So if you could just test that out for me now, just to make sure it's working, click the little green hand at the bottom of your screen, or it's a white hand, and then it will turn green when you click it. If you guys could give that a shot for me. Thank you, Claire. That's definitely working. Okay, Stu, Jody, perfect. Thank you, guys. So again, you have to click it to turn it off. So if you've asked the question and I've answered it, then just click it once more and it will turn it off. Also, before we get started, just to let you know, this session will be recorded. So if you think it might be useful for other people, you want to circulate it internally, or you just want to rewatch it afterwards, then just let us know. We will have a recording available. And of course, feel free to click that green hand any time throughout the presentation. I'm not precious about stopping to answer questions as we go. I'd rather you ask the questions as and when they pop into your head, and we can make this a little bit more interactive. A little bit of context on myself. I am the Senior Sales Engineer at Northamber, but the reason I'm presenting Panda to you today is I previously worked for Panda Security for 5 years, so I am the product specialist here at Northamber. And to give you an overview of what to expect from the session, it's going to be a brief introduction of Panda. It's not going to be in a great amount of technical detail. It's going to be a high-level overview to give you insight into the capabilities of this vendor. Like I said, one of the great core benefits of this particular vendor is its breadth and width of solutions, and vendor unification just makes everybody's life easier. I'm also going to jump straight into the challenges that Panda can solve, because ultimately that's why we're all here. That's why the solutions exist. And that's what my job is to do, to help you guys marry up the correct solution to the IT challenges faced in the industry. I'll give you a little bit of more detailed solution overview, breaking down the portfolio in more detail, each individual solution, which specific IT challenges it actually solves. And then if there's some interest, we can have a brief look at a demonstration to show you what the look and feel of the solution actually looks like. Obviously, the whole purpose of the Tech Tuesdays is Q&A, to field your questions, to make sure you've got the information that you need to go out there and solve those IT challenges for your customers. So please do not be shy. Click the little hand at the bottom of the screen to ask questions as we go through. Okay, so first and foremost, a brief introduction. If you're not familiar with Panda Security already, then I'm just going to cover off the bases very, very quickly. So the first thing that most people will need to know is, what is it? And practically speaking, it's software. There are no hardware requirements. It is literally a single piece of software that you install onto a computer, and that will connect to Panda, which obviously resides in the cloud. All of the Panda solutions are cloud hosted, which means they're incredibly agile. They're very, very relevant in the world we live in at the moment. And the purpose of many of the solutions from Panda are security-based, but there's also some management and control features in there as well. We have solutions in the portfolio specifically designed at helping IT teams manage a remote workforce and support teams supporting a remote workforce. Some of the capabilities within Panda that are a little less known and it goes under the radar a little bit. How it works, like I mentioned, I alluded to before, it's a very lightweight, unified piece of software. So just one software instance, regardless of what capabilities you want out of the solution, and it covers most of your basic platforms, Windows, Linux, Mac, and so forth. There is some possibility that iOS would be brought into the fold moving forwards. That's potentially on the roadmap, not 100% confirmed. It's pretty much the only major player that's missed out of the lineup. But of course, trying to get things certified on the App Store with Apple is a process. Okay, so who is the Panda portfolio for? And the answer is quite literally anyone. And I know that's a little cliche to say, but the solutions from Panda Security are applicable to anyone with a computer. Anybody with a computer needs to manage it or needs to secure it. That is a fact. And so Panda is incredibly relevant. It's one of those core requirements for every business, is to keep their infrastructure secure, to keep visibility over their devices. And of course, that's why IT teams exist. So this is incredibly relevant for everyone. Also, of course, there is education and charity pricing available from Panda. So if we're dealing with those areas, those verticals, then we can be competitive in that space. Panda is also very, very extensive, so it is applicable from anybody to anybody from a small office to an enterprise. Smallest Panda customers are very, very small 5-man band companies, and the largest Panda customers are huge, huge enterprises such as Telefonica. I believe they have around 180,000 seats of the Panda solution. Critically, it's exactly the same solution, which means it's a great, great value proposition for the medium-sized guys. SMBs, SMEs are getting enterprise-grade security at middle market prices effectively. And another great thing about Panda is it is MSP friendly. They have an entire console which is designed for managed service providers to provision, or even just resellers to provision and manage their own license contracting and all of that sort of stuff. So it's incredibly well built for the MSP guys as well. Okay, so straight on to the heart of the matter. And if we're looking at the IT challenges, which is, like I said, ultimately why we're all here, to try and solve these IT challenges and overcome them. And like I said before, one of the huge benefits of Panda is just how many boxes it ticks, for want of a better term. Fundamentally, this is something that we all face in IT. We have these check boxes, if it were, that we need to tick off, these things that we have as requirements for our business, and these are fairly universal to a lot of companies. There are the typical ones you would expect from a security vendor, such as malware attacks, zero-day malware attacks, and so forth. But there are some other ones which maybe you might not expect. For instance, asset visibility, management and control, which I'll expand on later. And also we've got the compliance pieces in there, data compliance, GDPR compliance. So I'm literally going to go through all of these points. This isn't an exhaustive list, guys. This is just one that I came up with off the top of my head, where Panda is applicable, where Panda can help our customers solve these challenges. And like I said, being able to do all of this, such an expansive list of IT challenges checked off of a single vendor, is incredibly powerful. So I will explain these terms. If any of these terms on screen don't make sense to you, I will go through them in a little bit more detail as we step through the list. So I'm going to flatten out the portfolio for us all here. So you can see the straightforward portfolio, left to right, as easy as it comes. And we're literally going to step through this line of solutions, and I'm going to marry it up to the relevant IT challenges that it solves. So the first one, and the most simple one, is the traditional antivirus. And this is probably what people that know Panda would think of when you say Panda. Unfortunately, a lot of the other solutions fly under the radar with a lot of people. People stereotype Panda as an antivirus vendor, but obviously there's a lot more to it. And the challenges that we're facing here, of course, are the real basics. In fact, this I would go as far to say is last generation technology. It has a great position in the market for price-conscious customers, so the education sector, charities, and so forth, like this one. And it gives you a stable baseline to work from with regards to your security posture. This one's going to be effective against known malware attacks. And what I mean by that is malware that we're already familiar with as a vendor. Panda already knows millions and millions of types of malware that are out there. So if it's in Panda's list of known malware, this solution is going to stop it. The Plus version of this solution also includes an anti-theft feature for mobile devices, so that's your Android devices. If it has the Panda software installed, you will be able to track the mobile device, and you will be able to remote lock it or remote alarm and that sort of thing if you need to try and track it down. And you can remote wipe as well those mobile devices. And again, just to touch on the point again, all of Panda solutions are cloud-based, which is incredibly useful in the world that we live in today. There is no requirement for any infrastructure. You don't need a VPN. It's just a piece of software on your laptops, on your endpoints that connects to the cloud. It's as simple as that. The rest is hosted by Panda. The rest is Panda's problem, quite honestly. All you need is a software installed onto the endpoints and you're good to go. So moving on to the advanced protection, and honestly, this is the business end. This is where all of the development goes into. This is where Panda are on the bleeding edge of making sure endpoints are secure. This is what Panda is probably most proud of. It's their own proprietary system that they introduced to the market about 5 years ago now. It comes in two forms, which I'll explain in a moment. But the main advantages of this one, as you can see in that list, we've added zero-day malware attacks. So this, just for anybody who's not familiar, this is where there's a new variant of malware. So I spoke about the traditional endpoint protection preventing you from being affected by known malware, but what happens when the bad guys create a new piece of malware that nobody has ever seen? And I mean no one's ever seen it at all. This solution is for that challenge. You'll also see in there malwareless attacks. Now, unfortunately, as much as we innovate, the bad guys innovate as well. And the current state of play is that anybody can be compromised, any computer system can be compromised if there's a vulnerability. Then we have threat hunting. And threat hunting is taking it one step further and actually looking for threats in real time. And this solution has that capability since it is logging and reporting on telemetry that is collected from the endpoints. Now, if I break that down for you a little bit more, what is happening here is that the software on the endpoints is sending all of the events that happen on the computer up to a console, which the administrators have access to. And Panda provides a service as part of the solution to monitor this telemetry. So this is quite a unique thing in the market space. Many other companies will charge extra money for this type of service, but Panda throws it into their flagship solution for free. And this is going to monitor for scenarios such as RDP brute force attacks, power exploit attacks, and various different types of attacks that are happening in real time. So if none of that made sense to you, just know Panda is proactively monitoring your systems in real time. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the situation that we will be in is the customer will have either chosen a traditional or an advanced version of the protection. You cannot have both the traditional and the advanced together at the same time. You gotta go one way or the other depending on your cost requirements and your technical requirements and what solution you're after. But once you've chosen, there are additional modules which can be not added on, but utilized. So the great advantage of these modules is that they are in the software already. So if you've got one of the aforementioned solutions, you already have everything that you need to have these additional modules. You've just got to pay for it. And of course, on a trial, you get access to them if you want as part of the trial. So each of these modules is fantastic because there's no additional software to deploy. There's no additional projects for the IT guys to take part in. All they've got to do is say what they want and it's there. Each of them is aligned to a particular challenge. And a couple of these are very, very relevant across the board for all verticals, all companies. And a couple of them are a little bit more specific. So let's break it down. We've got our software patching challenge. Software patching is something which every company struggles with under normal circumstances. But under current circumstances of everybody working from home, there is limited visibility or limited control that IT teams can have over those devices. So patch management offers a solution in that it's cloud-based, it's real-time, and it allows the IT teams to update the software that resides on the computers, regardless of where they are. Now, this isn't just Windows updates that you guys may be familiar with when you're trying to shut down and get out on a Friday and your PC's taking a long time to shut down. This is also all of the software, or much of the software rather, that is installed over the operating system. And this is another key aspect, another key selling point for this particular module. It's not just the Windows updates. It also comes with rollback capability, complete auditing of the endpoints automatically. So it is a very, very fleshed out patching solution. You can schedule the patches, you can do it in real time. It's brilliant. Then we've got our data compliance requirement. And under here, we've got the full disk encryption. Now this, if you guys are familiar with BitLocker, effectively what we've done is we've taken our cloud console, we've linked it up to the software that sits on the endpoints, the Panda software, and the Panda software sends instructions to the BitLocker. So you have full BitLocker control and management through the Panda solution. Very elegantly done, very easy interface to engage with, which I'll show you in the demonstration portion. And effectively, it can very quickly enable you to implement BitLocker across a wide number of computers. It will also log the recovery key. So this is a big challenge that a lot of IT departments have, is when you encrypt a computer, you get a recovery key, which needs to be stored very safe location, because it's the only way the IT team can access the computer if the password's lost. And often it is the responsibility of the IT teams to store these codes in a safe location. Panda will automatically store them for them, so it's complete peace of mind, and it's very, very straightforward. The next challenge that we have on the list is GDPR compliance. And I'm going to skip over to the Panda data control, which is at the far side of the red box. This is the GDPR focused solution. And again, this is another standout capability with Panda. They have the ability to not only identify personal and sensitive information that resides on the endpoints, but they can also track who's accessed it and what events have occurred with that data. So somebody deletes a document, there's no qualms around why it's gone or who did it, it's logged in the system. This is an incredibly powerful solution. You can get very detailed with it. You can set up automatic alerts so that if particular data is moved or tampered with in some way, then you get an alert. Or if the data just resides and exists somewhere where it shouldn't. The big question with this particular solution is, how does a company know whether there's sensitive information on the employees' computers? You don't have visibility over your staff 24/7, particularly now. How would you know if you're a manager within a company, what is on your employees' computers? And this is where this solution comes in. Incredibly popular in particular verticals that are regulatory sensitive, such as lawyer firms or anything to do with people generally. This is going to go down well. And then the last one that we have is visibility or forensic telemetry. So I alluded to this before in the Adaptive Defense 360 piece. The forensic telemetry is a huge, huge benefit to the Panda portfolio. The Panda portfolio has the capability to log everything that happens on the computers and store it for a full 12 months. And the advanced reporting tool is essentially giving the administrators unrestricted access to that data so that they can query it and they can create alerts for particular events that they're interested in. And it could be events that are performed by users, could be activities or things on the computers that they don't want happening by users. But similarly, it can be used to monitor for nefarious activity by malware, by malicious actors and threat actors out there in the wild. So we've got some really, really strong challenges met here. You can see that this is fleshing out, but we're not done yet. If we move on to the next solution, we've got email protection. And this is obviously a key part of any company's security posture. Email is still by far the biggest leverage that any cyber attacker uses to try and gain access to a network. is by far the biggest attack vector that is targeted and one of the hardest ones to protect. And with Panda, we have a cloud-based email protection solution. And in simple terms, it filters out all of the bad emails, all of the spoofed emails, all the spam, and it only delivers the genuine email to the users. In addition to that, it also doubles as an email continuity solution, meaning that if your mail service provider goes down, maybe they have a flood on the server or something badly goes wrong and they go offline, even if it's only for a few hours, this can spell disaster for companies. If you're unable to use your email for 3 hours, how much money does the company lose? How much reputation does the company lose? So email protection plugs this gap and ensures that you've got an offline live recovery, disaster recovery in motion. The users can simply log into the Panda console and continue to send and receive email as normal. Lastly, but not least by any means, we have the systems management solution. And if any of you are familiar with RMM, remote monitoring and management, this is a solution that firmly falls into that category. So it's not a security solution in any way, stretch or form. It's much more about visibility and management of the devices. This is a monster of a solution. The one bullet point that I've given it doesn't do it justice. It's probably the second most popular solution from Panda Security, and it's really, really, really capable of enabling IT teams to have all the information they need in one screen. So it's going to show you a complete inventory of all the devices, including not only computers, but network devices. It supports SNMP, so you can see your printers and your switches and all of that sort of stuff. It supports mobile devices, including iOS. This one does support iOS. And not only are you going to have a complete list of all your devices, you're going to know who's using them, you're going to know when they're online in real time. You can remote desktop, so your support teams can use this solution to remote desktop into PCs and service the users. You can push software out, and this is completely cloud-based, guys. There's no infrastructure requirement whatsoever. Very, very small piece of software goes onto the endpoint, that's it. No VPNs, nothing else to set up, just install the software, away you go. It also has some limited scripting capabilities, so you do need to know how to script. It's not going to build the scripts for you or anything, but if you are able to script, or an IT team member is able to script, they can create some scripts. And essentially, for anybody who's not familiar, a script is anything you want it to be. You're just writing a piece of simple code or instructions that tells the computer do X, Y, and Z, and that could be anything from deleting a particular document, to changing the desktop, to any maintenance tasks that need to happen on the computer. So it's an incredibly powerful piece of kit. Okay. Lastly, the keen-eyed among you may have noticed that I've not touched on the Fusion, and that is on purpose. The Fusion solutions in this list, they're not actually solutions, they're just sales packages of the aforementioned, so just ignore them for the purposes of this session today. I won't go into those because they're just the other solutions that we've already covered. All right then. So what I want to do now is I want to try and jump into a quick demonstration with you guys. See if I can drag this over for you, just so you can see exactly what the Panda solution actually looks like. Now, I'm not going to cover everything. We'd be here all day if I went into every solution, every feature and everything. But what I will do is I'll give you a top level look at what it looks like, what it feels like, and what customers would actually get. Okay, so this is the cloud console itself. This is where the IT administrators would log in and set it all up. And as you can see, this is showing whether everything is properly protected and whether we've got any detections and so forth. And you remember I was talking about the telemetry that this solution collects. If I click through into the malware activity section, I'm just going to click straight through. I'm not going to waste any time on all of the previous screens, so forgive me there. You can see that this is showing us the telemetry that's being collected. Now, we can go a lot further than this with the advanced reporting module. We can go in much, much, much more detail, but this is what is included in the base offering. And you can literally see, if I scroll backwards through the timeline here, and press start, it's going to play through the events that actually occurred on this machine in the past. It's going to show the IT administrators exactly what happened. This is actually demonstrating a malware incident. So we can see that the red item in the center there is the malicious payload, and everything surrounding it are the events that occurred as a result of that malware being on the computer. But there's an awful lot more to the console. Many of the customers choose us over our competitors purely because the console, the interface, is really straightforward, it's clean and simple to use. There's a great amount of small features in here that make it really, really useful. If you're clicking into a particular computer, there's lots of information. Even when you've got install errors and so forth, it's a very tactile interface for the IT guys. Gives a lot of information back. You're not often stuck wondering what something means in this console. And you can see that we've got a hardware inventory here, so it's showing the spec of the machine. And we've also got inventory of the software. We can filter by all of this information, so it's incredibly useful for IT teams. In addition to that, you can also do some pretty cool stuff. So if I just select on a Windows machine in here, I can do all the usual stuff, like scan it, or schedule or isolate the isolate computer options. And under the advanced options, I can choose to be more specific about how I want to isolate the computer. And this happens in real time. Again, another huge selling point of Panda is that it's real-time control over remote devices through the cloud. You can do this on an iPad if you really want to. In fact, I think on YouTube, one of the American Panda technicians has done a demo completely on an iPad just to illustrate how flexible the website is. So you've got the isolate capabilities. This is incredibly important if there's an incident that you need to lock down and you want to stop malware spreading across the network. But similarly, I've had people isolate computers just because there was a laptop that they didn't know where it was. So they isolated it and waited for the phone to ring. Okay, awesome. All right, so that pretty much concludes the bulk of what I wanted to share with you guys today. What I want to do is essentially open this up to some questions. I mean, this is a drop-in Q&A session. So if anybody has any questions, you do have the ability to unmute yourself. So feel free to unmute yourself if you want to. If you feel more comfortable, there's a chat section somewhere on the right-hand side. You can click on the chat box and type in your questions there. But I haven't had any questions yet, so please feel free to shoot them over. I'll give you guys a few more minutes. If there's no questions, I've clearly done a brilliant job right here. Okay, whilst we're waiting then, I'm just going to quickly highlight that this is a weekly webinar, Northamber run. There is a website. If you just Google Northamber Tech Tuesdays, you will find this page here. Essentially, you can see this is today's one, but the next one lined up are optics, which are HD camera solutions. And then the week after that, we've got Nikivo, which is your backup disaster recovery solution. So if they sound of interest, please join for those sessions as well. I'll quickly check and see if we have any questions popped in. No? Okay. So if you guys want to know any of these solutions in a bit more detail, if you want a full demonstration, like I said, today was just an overview for you guys. So if any of these struck a chord, if you think any of the IT challenges on screen is something that you could have, need some help with, please reach out to us. If you have a account manager at Northamber, reach out to them. If not, I'll put my email address in the chat for you. So you can just go to the chat and copy and paste my email address. If you want to reach out, we can have a one-to-one session and do a demonstration for you. But otherwise, thank you very much for your time, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. and take care.